Hello there, TNA fam. How's it going for today? And we're back again at the Impact Zone podcast. And well, the other day, just as the other episode went live about the speculation about the AMC deal, I was recording another podcast episode, basically talking about the if, ands, and buts of what I thought, TNA would need to do if they got this deal sorted or any deal sorted. Since that deal has now been officially announced, I can't say if because we are going to be on that network. So now all the ifs in the podcast are going to be not so much ifs, but the ifs are now more so how TNA can sort of get this ball rolling in this new deal. So what they need to do, how they need to do it, and whatnot. So the following is mostly a recording of that previous podcast episode that I already recorded. I am going to edit it slightly and whatnot, but it is mostly the unedited version of that podcast. But just know that, yes, it has been edited slightly just to change it from what if they get this deal or what it would mean. So it's more about now what they need to do with this deal and how they need to go about making this a good, well, not first impression, but a good new impression or whatnot. So I hope you enjoy. So my thoughts start to become that, let's say if we're getting this deal, okay, how much will that buff up TNA? I don't think it's certainly not going to buff them up to being the number 2 promotion in the world. It's just unfortunately not. It's not in the same space as what AEW is doing. But it's still a significant upgrade in many ways. I said this in the podcast because I was the previous episode podcast because I was like, I'm unsure as to whether they have a streaming service. They do have a streaming service. It's not one of the very big streaming services, but it is a streaming service nonetheless, and it is a service that is up there. And TNA. I think the thing about TNA being on a streaming service, you could say, oh yes, they have TNA Plus, but that's just for TNA. If you're not somebody that's a dedicated hardcore wrestling fan, you're probably not gonna be on that very much. And even I'm pretty dedicated, and I'm not on there much. I've got always something else going on, so it's yeah, I can't, put too much time into going into that sort of stuff. But still, if you're gonna get on this network or even on the network and not on the streaming service, that seems really silly to me. You're on the TV network and they have a streaming service. Why aren't you on the streaming service if you're on the, it's 1-to-1 to me. To me, if you're getting on one, you're getting on the other. You're not going to get on the streaming service and be like, oh, but we're not putting you on the... Maybe they could do that, but if they're getting on TV, they're surely getting on the streaming service. And if they're on the streaming service, then it's well, that's a bit weird that you're covering this other show or whatever, or this other product that you're not even broadcasting on your TV. So it's still a little bit weird, but it is oh, well,
whatever, you could still do that. I think if you were on their TV and you weren't on their streaming service, because effectively all that a streaming service is a service that allows you to access the TV station or the TV episodes of whatever shows or whatever that you want to watch whenever you want to watch them. And they are broadcast live at the time that they are broadcast, but like they have, the archive of episodes or whatever else that you go, okay, I want to watch this or I want to watch that or whatever it is. And so I'm going to tune in and see that or what have you. So yeah, like I do think, like if they're on the TV network, they're getting on the streaming service. But if they're getting on this streaming service, it's not lifting them up to AEW's levels. I think we already kind of knew that with like how much money they were looking to invest or how much of a broadcasting deals rights they were looking for. Like I said this before, like I think AEW's like 300 and something million, 350 million or something like that. Maybe more, I can't remember. I think WWE's is like ridiculously huge. It's in like 600 million or something. I can't remember what it is, but TNA having 10 million, like it's better than what they have now, which is like I don't even know what they have. I guess it's an undisclosed amount. So if they're getting onto this TV deal, what and we talked somewhat about this, but what would it take for TNA to be flying on all cylinders during that like first year, because that's where you've got to make your big impression. So they've got to absolutely knock it out of the park. They've got to, shock and awe everyone at every twist and turn and be having people going, holy crap, this show, this product is so hot right now, and it is like drawing in the people's views. It is, getting all the attention. It's getting all the, attendance records. It's getting all this other stuff. And the thing is, like, they've broken some attendance records here and there with the crap ass TV deal that they've got and just the limited social media and whatnot that they've got. Like their social media isn't bad, but like their social media isn't like what WWE is, and it isn't. They don't have the same budget on social media, like distribution and promotion as what WWE or AEW have. So again, that's another area where they can apply a little bit more money. That's the thing that really helps any promotion, especially TNA or whatever, is investing that money. You can't just say, oh well, we'll sit back on the money that we're getting and whatever. If you're in the number 2 or number 3 or whatever, if you're not in the number 1 spot, you've got to be fighting to get to number 1. That's it. Like, if you're not in the business of like trying to be the best and trying to kick everyone down or whatever, then, or in some ways it's like what or whatever, you're not like in the business of being in business in a sense. If you're not shooting for the top, in some ways, you're just going out of business in some ways. Like, it's all right to say, like I said this before as well, the WWE working relationship has helped in some ways, but we have to be grateful for that in some ways or whatever, but at a certain point, it's time for that to end. And I think WWE knows that too. But I think TNA will always be in that position below WWE, obviously. Whether they, in 2 or 3 years, are in closer proximity to AEW, that's what we've got to aim for. We've got to aim for, and I said this as well before, that we've got to aim to, again, as I sort of was saying, knock it out of the park. this next year, so that people go, holy crap, maybe we should be paying more attention to TNA and what they're doing, because holy heck, they just had a absolute fire year. And yes, maybe you can attribute it somewhat to WWE in some ways, but like when you don't have every single week having all these NXT people, or whatever, and like most of the NXT people are effectively just mid-card guys or whatever else it is. It's like, well, how excited are people to see some of these like basically no-name mid-card guys from WWE? Like, really? Like, you think, like, it's not just that, I get that, but it's the story that you're putting them in and the situations and whatever. So that can really like help. I think that story, like I said, the faction story, that can really help. But you've got to have superstars. Like, that's one of the biggest things. You've got to have people for people to tune in to see, and that's across all the divisions, not just the main event scene or whatever. I said this before, it's like a lot of the divisions, they need more people, they need more wrestlers, they need more, even if it's NXT people. I don't love the fact that there's NXT people there, but that's driving the angles right now. So, but that's also a problem, because it's like, not just how long are they going to be there, because like it seems like most of them are only there for like a month or whatever, and then they're gone, or even less, like, so again, that whole let's give this a go thing is like, well, that's no good. We need to keep talent that we've got, or bring in new talent, and we've got to develop that talent. We can't keep sitting on the same talent that we've had. It's obviously still like Eric Young and these guys, they're obviously still great talent, but you can't rely on them. You can't rely on the Hardys. You can't rely on those older talents, because despite how big and how good and how cool or whatever that they were, and how big of draws they are or whatnot, they're not going to be there forever. So you've got to cultivate your new crop. You've always got to be cultivating that new crop and bringing people up to the next level, so that again you have somebody else to rely on for a few more years. And hopefully that's where we're going to be at. But again, you need to bring in the top names from the indies. You need to, and this is the same thing for WWE and AEW. But you need to bring in top prospects from the indies. Like Leon Slater was a top prospect in some ways. It was a prospect that AEW and WWE didn't see. And I don't know why they didn't see it, or they didn't go after him, or whatever it was, but they obviously saw something in Leon, and they said, this kid, he's something special, let's do something with him and see where we can go with him. And they strapped that rocket to him pretty well. But now you've got him in a position where it's like he's got nothing to do, he's got no real opponents realistically, and no real stories. So it's like now the interest is starting to peter off. Like, even when you've got a baby face that people are invested in, you've got to have stories and situations for them to be people to continue invest in. Like, if Leon goes back into the X division after this, people will get even less like interest in that, because he's already kind of been there and done that, like, kind of thing. People want to see people elevated. That's why I was talking about, he's got to transition. He's either got to become a tag team guy, he's got to become like, in the intercontinental or international division. He's got to get into the world title division and that sort of thing. He can't, like, he can go back to the X division sometimes, but it's like at a certain point you're kind of, doing that whole, uh, experiment of, diminishing returns effectively. You can't keep going back to the well, like, for no reason. Like, he's already achieved the thing that he was going to achieve in that X division. So the other achievements that he's got to try to do, and why he's got to do them or whatever, have got to be just as significant or just as important or just as, seemingly another step or another, thing in his journey to the top at some point, and you kind of got to push him quick, but you got to kind of keep him moving. You can't just push him there tomorrow, or like, you could push him into that position and then see how we go, but like, you need to pull him back and kind of keep him where he's at, but you need to keep him, like, important. You know what I mean? You've got to, like, and this is the same for anyone and for just about everyone. You've got to keep all your main players important enough so that people go, again, creating that sense of anything could happen. This person could win, they could debut, they can't debut Kurt Angle, but they could debut somebody on the level of Kurt Angle. They could debut somebody on the level of Christian Cage. They could debut somebody on the level of Jericho or Edge or Cena, or, like, maybe not Cena, but, like, you know what I mean? They could debut somebody on that caliber, or they could have AJ Styles come back in, or whatever else it is. Like, even if it's just in a, I don't know, promo or appearance level type thing. He's just there, or even if he's in the crowd, like, whatever, or he's on commentary, I don't know, whatever. You could do 1,001 things like that. So I don't know, but still, like, it is tough, because it is like, well, then you've got to, kind of ask WWE, hey, can we have him over here, or is he allowed over here, or whatever, all those sorts of things and whatnot. So, and like, then you've got to kind of garter, like, something in return, or whatever else it is, so, but still, I don't know. But yeah, like, if you're gonna get there, well, obviously if you're gonna get there, then what are the expectations that the fans would have for you to, again, try to knock it out of the park, try to make people go and tune in every week? And this is what I said. I said, you've got to be live. You've got to be live basically every single week. If not every single week, you've got to have every fortnight. So every second week at least, because one live episode here and there, or one live episode there and here, or whatever else it is, not even once a month. Like, it's so, like, iggledy-piggledy that it's like, well, you don't know when it's going to be live. But if it was live every single week, or even every other week, then at least okay, cool, we're getting, stuff that we haven't seen yet. We haven't had this spoiled weeks and 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 weeks in advance, or whatever. That's what you need. You need people to not know what's going to happen, so that they absolutely have to tune in. So that whether that is the first date, but if that is going to be your first date on I think it's the 12th or something, can't remember now. Then you've got to get people to tune in. Either way, like, you've got to get people to tune in, because if you don't have, you know, that whole thing, it's going to be a a flop. So yeah, the 15th. So yeah, if you don't have that hype going in, like, you've got to have like surprises, but you've kind of got to have that like sense of, like, not just anything can happen, but you've got to have that sense of there's something coming that's big also on that date, not just, oh yeah, we're going to have a live episode. That's great. That's cool. And on our new network, that's great. That's cool. Whatever. But we're teasing something else. Something else is coming on that night. Like you did that whole thing with Mace Warner debuted. Like, that's something that you could work someone's debut or return or whatever into it. Like you could say, okay, we're gonna bring back somebody, James Storm. Let's bring back James Storm for one night or for something, or for a short period of time. Let's say that. Or whatever. Like, again, that's the same thing. Like I think this is the episode after Genesis, or would be the episode after Genesis. So you have JDC come to cut a promo and say thank you and in retirement or whatever. Things like that. I don't think he I don't think he deserves a Hall of Fame, so I don't know. He's just been a great hand at doing a lot of things throughout his career, realistically. So, and like, they kind of missed the boat with him, but he's doing what he's doing, and I think he's loved it, and that's cool for him, good on him, but he deserves some time to come and have a promo or whatever. But then again, if you're ever going to have any of these segments or whatever, it's almost always like, well, should we get somebody to go out there and attack him, or, get something on him or whatever, just to kind of, get the heat, or to get on to the next thing or whatever. But then again, it's like, well, you've retired this guy, so it's time to kind of celebrate him and just let him walk off into the sunset or whatever it is. So, yeah, I don't know. But you've got to have more than just, he's going to retire. Maybe you could like have somebody that ties into his career appear, that hasn't really appeared a whole lot, or hasn't appeared in a long time or something. Again, start going back to New Japan. I don't know what happened with the whole New Japan thing. I think it fell apart because AEW was like, no, you're going to partner with us, so leave them behind or whatever. Yeah, like, I think, or even AAA, that WWE's got a relationship with AAA. Let's bring, like, this is going to be in Texas, I believe. Oh, no, it might not be, because it hasn't actually been announced. Anything, it hasn't been announced, but still, you could say, if this is, somewhere specific like that, let's bring in somebody from that area, so, or whatever. So again, thinking, hey, we were just in Texas, so makes sense to be bringing in some luchadors, what have you. People get to see the show, see guys wrestle, that they perhaps haven't seen in a while or whatever. Major feuds, like serious major feuds, and not just for the title. You need serious major feuds. One major feud I kind of want to see is like Eddie Edwards versus Mace Warner. This would be such an easy feud to make because you basically have Mace, who's beat Sami Callihan last year and basically forced him to retire in some regards. And you have Eddie Edwards, who's there and has like been Callahan's friend, rival, whatever, for the last whatever years, whatever it is. It's a simple story. Mace running off his mouth or whatever, boasting about effectively retiring Callahan, and then you have the feud with like Eddie trying to defend, or his personal rivalry or whatever it was with Callahan, saying, or whatever, with Mace saying, "Oh, well, since I beat one of your greatest rivals, I'm sure I can beat you. You're old news or whatever. I'm the new era, type thing. I think that'd be great. Like, that's a great feud. I think that, very simple, like, bare bones, like, stuff there. And they probably should have done it ages ago, but they could still do it, I think, and it could work at any time. So, but it's also like you've got to start thinking, like, again, same for everybody. Like, what are you going to do with the system? Who's going to be the next member of the system, or the newest member of the system once JDC leaves? Is that going to be who you debut? That's an interesting question. Or is it going to be somebody that's already on the roster? I'd kind of prefer it to be somebody that they debut, because again, you start going, well, that's another surprise. That's another new face. That's somebody else to be excited for, and a fresh face sort of thing. I think I like a lot of the guys like Myers and things like that, but it's like those guys aren't, like, they aren't the highlight or anything, which is fine. You need your other guys to elevate everybody else. But, like, you've got to have more new guys. You've got to have more new guys, or whatever. More guys that are, like, feeling like they are the identity of TNA, or they are the thing to be excited about now, or whatever. You can't be excited about EY or Kazarian. It's cool to see them. They're legends, they're icons, whatever. Same for, like, you're getting those Eddie Edwardses and Mooses. They're like becoming legends and icons of TNA. So again, like, I still think Moose has like a lot of gas in the tank, but I think I still don't know where you're gonna stand with him for the long term. But we'll wait and see, will we? Same with a lot of people, but like I said before, like, they need to elevate some of the people that they've got. You can't just keep saying, oh, well, we're going to bring in all these new people and not focus on the guys that we've had, the guys that have been loyal to us for however long, like some of the guys in the Rascals and things like that. Ace Austin was very loyal for a long time. Probably should have had a little bit more of a trigger pulled. Same thing for Jake Something's been very loyal for a long time. Probably should have a little bit more of a trigger pulled on him. He could be fine in the mid card, absolutely. And then eventually, you might see him getting pushed up to the main event scene. Like, or give him a proper tag team partner or something. I don't know. I don't care specifically, but like, let's try something. Or if he's just going to be one of the lower level guys, okay. But again, you should be rewarding guys for for not just for nepotism's sake of saying, oh, you've been here for a long time or whatever. Well done for just existing here. But you should be saying, well, there's you've been loyal, you've been good to us, we'll be good to you, so we're not, maybe you're not going as hard and as far as what, some of the other guys are, but, we still appreciate you and, things like that. So, but it's another lesson for some people, again, looking at the people that have won the All-Star Awards or have won or have gotten some, highlight or whatever here and there. It's like, well, pull your finger out, type thing. This is the type of initiative, and it's like, well, even it, I said this before, it's like if fans are sort of cyclical to wrestling and wrestling's sort of cyclical to fans, they each feed off of each other. The more you push somebody in many ways, the more the fans sort of are into that person. The more the fans are into somebody, the more that they get pushed. So it's sort of a positive feedback loop. The more the fans, keep coming to support somebody, the more they get pushed. And the more that the fans, the more push they get, the more the fans come to support them. So it's keeps building and growing and going, as long as you've got things for them, the fans, to be invested in, and entertained by, not just, oh, I guess there's a show on and we put it together, with some thought last night over a hot cup of coffee, or whatever, so yeah, there's a lot of, obviously, it's a lot of the same things. It's always the same things. What does it take? Same sort of things. Gaining people's, especially casual fans. Casual fans. The hardcore fans are always probably going to be fairly engaged and happy because we've been, in those trenches for so long. And that's the thing, that's what we've been fighting for. This sort of opportunity, this sort of chance, a proper redemption story, all of that, finally getting back, starting to, climb up the ranks of, not just attendances or pay-per-views, but now TV and streaming, sort of things. Now it's starting to become we're one step higher, or whatever it is. Not literally one step higher, but we are one step higher in a sense. So now it's starting to become oh, now we have more advertising space. Now we have better sponsors, or whatever else it is. We have bigger arenas, we have bigger budgets, we have better equipment, those sorts of things. We have, the better, wrestlers who can draw gates and houses and whatnot for us. The main reason, a lot of indies have a lot of great wrestlers, but the main reason they don't really draw is just the amount of promotion, TV, again, without TV, without, streaming, without these sorts of things, unless you're a really hardcore person and knows about these things, or whatever, it's most people wouldn't know, because it's a very regional thing for the most part, and even if they have these big names, they don't get a lot of buzz because they can't advertise, and they can't, even on social media, they have a limited budget to advertise. They don't have the budget of TNA, even to advertise. So that really limits them to getting smaller and smaller, or well, not smaller and smaller, but they only get so many people in attendance. And TNA used to get roughly that amount of people in attendance here and there as well. But even then, you look at like WrestleCade from a couple of years ago, and TNA was the best looking promotion on there. And that was like the worst that they'd looked all year. So they were striking down that day, in terms of production and that. So yeah, that's where they're at. They actually have, not the best, but they have very decent production. And I don't think it's about having these, AI or 3D models or whatever else it is, these sorts of things. Those are cool or whatever. But, it has to be about what the wrestlers, the stories. Who are these people? Why are they fighting? Why should I care? And why should I spend my money to see what's going to happen? That's why you've got to create these scenarios that are like, this guy is undefeated, he or whatever. This guy's on a hot streak and he's tapped out every single person or whatever else it is that he's come across. This other person has also gone on a hot streak and has tapped out every single person he's come across or whatever it is. Now they're going to clash. Who's going to tap out? But neither of them have ever tapped out before, basically. But one of them, that's a specialty. So now which one's going to lose? And they're probably going to tap out, type thing. So how is that going to work? Or are they going to finally win a match in a different way? How's that going to happen? Who's going to win? Whatever. Those sorts of scenarios, or you don't have to do that on every TV, but you have to set those things up in people's minds that this is the sort of thing that they're going to see, at the next pay-per-view. So when you see somebody come out or whatever, it's like, oh shit, this guy and this guy are going to get together or whatever. Oh shit, we better, tune in to see this in 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it is, the program's going to be really good, so we have to turn into every single episode and see what's going to happen between these two. And then not just that, you have another thing that's basically, the mid-card version of that, or the next level version of that, or, down. But for the women, or same thing for the women. It's like, whatever. Same sort of thing. Getting this thing. It's not just a mid-card thing, but it's like that upper main event sort of thing that you go, oh, okay, cool. Also, the women have something really, the main event of the women have something really big. So I better tune into that. So it has to be every single level from the bottom to the top has to be like must watch stuff every single time so that people go, holy crap, I cannot miss a single episode, a single minute, of this show. You still have to have your down times or whatever else, your different things, your comedy spots or whatever else it is, your different things. You can't just keep doing the same thing or whatever all the time. You've got to have sorrow and whatever else. You've got to have happiness and ups and downs, but you can't, and whatnot. You've got to have serious and comedic. You can't just have the one thing, but you've got to have everything feeling like it's that sort of thing of saying, we must see this. We must see this person have their moment or whatever else it is because they deserve it, or whatever. Or they've earned it, and they've gone through all these things, months and months and months, whatever, And even if we think like, again, this person or that person or whoever, whatever, should have been pushed 6 months ago or a year ago or whatever it was, well, now they're getting pushed and that's great. So let's keep that train going and see where this goes. So they've got to they've got to really do everything right. No one bats 1,000, obviously, and they could make some other little minor things, but those are the things that, will get them to the next level or get people thinking that they're on that track to that next level. And the lackluster stuff has to go. No more, like, yes, you can still say, let's have a more minor opponent or more minor opponents at the monthly shows, and let's build up every 3 months for a more major opponent or whatever. That's fine. But, even then, you've still got to say, okay, we've got to work on, whoever's going to be these more minor opponents still. We can't just turn around and hope for the best, And Genesis is a perfect name for, a show, because that's the beginning, so to speak. And so you start saying, okay, you have this pay-per-view. What's before the pay-per-view? Like, there's got to be something like before that. So I'm assuming, let's see, I don't know what dates they are. I said the 15th, didn't I? So the 8th and the 1st. The 1st is like New Year's. So I'm assuming that's like still like maybe like end of the year sort of stuff, like that sort of stuff. So you've got to have Final Resolution, then you've got like TNA on the 12th, or no, you've got the 4th coming up, this TV, then you've got the pay-per-view on the 5th, then you've got the 11th, which will be Impact, the 18th and the 25th are probably going to be like end of the year specials. So then you've got the 1st and the 8th. What are you going to do there? I don't know, maybe like the best of, but like realistically you need to be like building up to promote, Genesis, and you need to be building up to promote this new thing if it's going to happen, one way or the other. If it's not going to happen, then it's time to just drop it and say, okay, well, whatever, we're going to keep trying and we're going to keep fighting on whatever. We're not new to that fight. We're not new to that. So if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We're not going to try to count our chickens before they hatch. But, just in theory, like, this is the theory of, like, and I've said this a million times, probably have to say it a million more, but these are the things that make wrestling the thing to watch, the promotion, like TNA, the promotion to watch. That's why, again, people have soured on AEW a bit, and things like that, because it's felt like there's no direction, or there's no, like, urgency, or there's no, like, oh, this person or that person, or oh shit, all the time. That tension of, like, like that Samoa Joe win, like, that was out of nowhere, but like for a while it's felt like, oh, whatever. You can't really see, like, somebody winning. It's like Hangman's gonna win, probably. But there's still that jeopardy of, like, oh, he might not win or whatever. But it's like, well, no one else feels like they're gonna win. It's like they haven't built any of these other things up. So it's like, oh, okay, well. And it doesn't, like, I don't want to bag on them or whatever. But because, as I was saying, TNA has done very much the same thing. But they have to do the opposite to get the opposite result of people being like, holy crap. Every time I'm looking, I'm like going, holy crap. I don't know what's going to go on, what's going to go down, or whatever. Obviously, you're going to get to see good matches. You're going to get to see good wrestlers and whatnot and good performers. But again, not just that. You're going to have to see what is what is. You know what I mean? Like, this is the statement. This is the mission statement. Of people, of the wrestlers, and who's the star of the show, so to speak. Everyone has got to be the star of the show, or basically everyone's got to be the star of the show. You've got to have your, as I said before, like your 6 or so major players in each division. So, and then you've got to have some other guys that they can work with, So your next 6 more major guys, so that you've got enough people for everyone to kind of work with, and then somebody can kind of fall out for a few weeks or a few months or whatever else it is, and somebody can take their place. And even like 2 of those people can fall out and be replaced every few months, like, so that you're getting this cycle of like, okay, 2 other guys, something else, somebody else, something else, So you've always got something to look forward to, or something always to be like, could this be this person, Because that's what the hype is. It's always like, oh, is this person going to break out? What are we going to see from this person? How well are they going to do? Now that they've got a chance, let's see it. Let's go. So, yeah. But that's where we're at. Hopefully they can do it. And even so, we'll all be still here fighting the good fight, trying to get them to do their best and pull their finger out and whatnot, so that they can get to that point of going, okay, yeah, we know what we have to do. We have to really make everything work. And that's what takes time and takes a lot of bodies and takes a lot of investment. So, but in the end of the day, that is how WWE has gotten so good, because they've made those investments. Same with AEW. That's how they were firing on all cylinders at one point. But now it's just, oh, we debut someone. Oh, we forgot that we had that person that we just debuted like 5 minutes ago. We've got another debut coming, but we're going to forget about them in 5 minutes because we've got a billion people and we don't know what we're doing with them all. And like, no one's like, there's a handful of like special people, but that's it. Like, you've got your 6 or so top guys or whatever, but you're not really utilizing them in the right way. You can't just keep that train going. You're not flowing through things. You're just sitting there going, oh, okay, we'll just do the same thing that we've already done, sort of thing. But anyway, yes, I don't want to harp on that. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts here for this. And hopefully we can get it going. So, yeah, I hope that you have enjoyed this one. And I hope we can all get TNA to the next level. And I hope that they pull their finger out and give us that, because that's what I think the fans really want. So, at least a more interesting, competition between brands and in the promotion itself. So, but yeah, guys. Anyway, hope to see you again in another one.